Hmm. Okay, there we go. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, and this is going to be my review for the latest episode of The Mandalorian. Now, I'm not going to get so much into spoilers. My wife has not actually seen this episode yet. She will watch it at some pretty soon, probably within the next few days, maybe even tonight. I'll sit down and watch it with her. But I just want to talk about my feelings on this episode of The Mandalorian titled The Gunslinger. Now, if you guys have read my tweet, I've kind of put out there that this is the most disappointing episode of The Mandalorian this far. And I'm going to get into my reasoning for that in just a little bit, but I do want to talk about the good things that have come from this episode of The Mandalorian. So, some really cool things that they do is, they take us back to Tatooine. We get to kind of see him walking in Tatooine, and that's the one thing about the show is he's on the run constantly. So there's a lot of walking, there's a lot of going from place to place, and we can never kind of feel consistency or kind of a solidarity into the world that this show is keeping us in, because we're constantly moving, we're constantly going back and forth. We find out that the planet that the Mandalorians are on, and where he got the job to, capture the asset of Baby Yoda, was on a planet called Navarro, which is kind of cool because it's something that we haven't learned. We didn't know what the name of this planet was, and now it kind of seems like more things are kind of coming into scope, and that we're getting a sense of kind of the world and where certain places are in terms of where kind of the locations are kind of being established for the setting of this show. So that was all really cool. I like the fact that they take us to a place that feels familiar in Tatooine, and that we get a really nice moment for the Mandalorian to not really trust anyone. That's kind of what the basis has been, that he can't really trust anybody at this point, especially anybody from the Bounty Hunters Guild, because they're going to come after him, even if they're people who don't know him necessarily or know that much about the guild, or kind of on a distant planet. They can still find out based on kind of rumblings and things that are being talked about and heard. So word is spreading fast throughout the galaxy, especially, about the Mandalorian stealing this asset back and turning against the Bounty Hunters Guild. So all that's really cool. I like the fact that he's an outlaw. He's basically got his face plastered all over in wanted signs, almost in kind of a uh, hyperbolic sense, not like an actual sense. So I really like all that. I like that they're doing that for the show. And again, one of my things is I would like them to kind of stay in one place for maybe a longer period of time than just kind of 30 minutes. But I am happy with what we're getting, and it makes sense to the story why he's on the run. Um, Another thing I really liked in this episode is I liked the fact that they introduced Ming Na Wan, I think is her name. She is a great actress, and she plays this character that I don't necessarily think is dead. We'll have to wait and see. I really don't think she is, and I think that the person at the end, we never get to see his face, but I really think that she is going to kind of play a factor one way or another moving forward in this story. And I think that the person who is kind of over her is someone possibly in the Bounty Hunters Guild. I'm thinking that it's the guy who actually gave Mando the job. So that's all cool. We got some really great, cute things with Baby Yoda this episode. Not a lot was focused on Baby Yoda in this episode, which I'm okay with. Honestly, I like the fact that there's kind of a balance when we have, this character, the Mandalorian, and we have Baby Yoda. There's like this dynamic with both of them together. And so for me, I really like the fact that both of them feel like they're learning from one another, and that we don't have to always rely on the cuteness of Baby Yoda to kind of keep us invested in the show, because Baby Yoda is really the standout. He's everywhere. I mean, it's probably the most popular, trendiest thing in the world right now, over the course of the last month. But the thing is, this show is focused heavily on the Mandalorian and the way that he has to kind of protect both of them moving forward. And we're kind of getting a better glimpse of that. We're getting kind of these side adventures of him having to try to go get some money, and him having to repair his ship, and him having to kind of find refuge, which is very interesting. It's very nice, because it's not just a show that's like, oh, here I am. I'm this person who escaped from the clutches of evil, and it picks up 3 weeks in the future where everything's good. Everything's good, and I got to this place, and they never show you how they got to this place or how they got to this important step moving forward. And so I really like that this show is really taking its time to kind of tell its story the way that it needs to. And again, I just wish that there was a little bit more consistency in terms of why characters aren't really settling down, and why we have to kind of feel like we get to meet a character for an episode and that's it. It's just one of those things that I wish that they would explore a little bit more on the Mandalorian, and him kind of being safe, and trying to find civilization, trying to find a place where he belongs. And the Sanctuary episode, they did stay for a longer period of time. They stayed up to like a few weeks. But the thing that is important is, I think that this whole running back and forth is going to get a little old for this show. And that's my only concern, and my only kind of worry about where this show is going, because I love the fact that we're getting all these different planets, and we're getting to see the expansiveness of the galaxy. But I also want there to be a familiar setting. Everything just kind of feels so sudden, and it just feels like we're moving from this place and this place and this place and this place. Once we get used to a character, it's like, oh, see you, bye. That's really what it feels like. And so again, I like the fact that he is on the run, and it's showing that, and it's really kind of showing his stops along the way, and trying to find safety, and trying to have that protection for this asset, this child that he really cares for. But I wish that there was a little bit more solidarity, as opposed to just kind of running all over the place all around. So those are the positives of this episode. Honestly, though, this is the most disappointing episode of the season. So far. Let me get into my negatives about this episode and my problems with this week's episode. The first big problem, the elephant in the room, the guy who plays Toro Calican, the rookie bounty hunter who is partnered up with the Mandalorian in this episode. That actor is horrible. His acting is atrocious. He says everything he feels. He feels cartoony in so many of the wrong ways. And it just feels like something that, like, he says internal dialogue that really doesn't need to be said. He doesn't know how to show emotion. I mean, the way he delivers lines is so lazy, and it's so weak. And so that is my biggest issue with this episode. The acting. Because you have Toro Calican and you have Amy Sedaris, which I might get a lot of hate. I know that there's a lot of people out there who like Amy Sedaris. And if you're one of those people, I get it. She is a funny comedian. But wow, was she really off-putting in this episode? It felt, Dave Filoni directed this episode. And my issues with the first episode was things felt too animated, too cartoonish. Not the entire episode. I think the first episode was really solid. There was a couple moments here and there where it felt cartoonish. There were some cartoonish type characters, and some of the things that the characters would do and say are just kind of too Star Wars Rebels or Star Wars Clone Wars ish. This episode took all those negative things from episode 1 and multiplied it by 20. It was really, really abhorrent and apparent that they were trying to push kind of this kid-friendly type of experience in this episode. They were Dave Filoni, it seems like he just doesn't understand enough about live action performance to direct these actors, because I couldn't name you, I mean, other than Ming Na Wan and Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, the other characters that are in this episode are really, really horrible. They're terrible. Amy Sedaris feels like kind of a joke in this episode. Like when she first gets on the screen, hey, hey, like being very loud and kind of obnoxious, and that turned me off immediately. When she did that, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna hate her character. And guess what? I did. I really did. She kind of grow on me? I mean, maybe, because she's really nice to, Baby Yoda. But my issue is, if you're gonna get someone like Dave Filoni, you gotta help him understand what it takes to direct live action performance, because it's not a cartoon where your characters can kind of be stupid and kind of the butt of every joke. This is not that type of show. This is not that. And so I really want them to kind of just keep letting Filoni get opportunities, but I think that Filoni should also have his hand held in terms of directing these actors and directing these performances, because they were really, really terrible in this episode. And Amy Sedaris wasn't very good, but Toro was the absolute worst. I didn't like the character from the first episode, the first bounty that the Mando got, but in this episode, man, I think Toro might be my least favorite character, honestly. He doesn't have any emotion. He feels like he's reading lines of dialogue the entire time. And it's noticeable. If you're somebody who didn't notice it, I just ask you to go watch it again, because it's so noticeable how often it looks like he's reading off of a cue card, and how there's no emotion ever in the terms of his body language, in the terms of the dialogue. Like when Ming Na Wan tells him, when her character tells him, hey, you can get a better bounty because of the Mandalorian. Like he has the child that, has kind of escaped the clutches of the Empire, not the remnants of the Empire, I should say, not Empire. But when she tells him that, he literally doesn't do anything. He just looks completely the same. Nothing changes in him. And the only way we know how he's feeling or his motives is by his dialogue. And that is a shame, because that's just not very good acting. And I actually looked up the actor who plays Toro Calican, and he is played by the son of Bobby Cannavale. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I think it's Cannavale. The actor's name was Jake Cannavale or Cannavale, whatever. I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. I'm not the best with names, but yeah, this kid is definitely not doing himself any favors. This is just not a very well acted episode of The Mandalorian. I thought the space battle at the opening was pretty sweet, but I felt like it was a little lackluster. I love the fact that he said the line where he says, "I can bring you in hot or I can bring you in cold," and then the Mandalorian shoots him. And before he shoots him, he says, "That's my line." And then he blasts him. And it was really cool. I loved all that, but I wish that was more of the episode as opposed to what we got, just because it got really cartoonish. It got really make-believe, and it got really annoying once he got to Tatooine. Tatooine was awesome. It was really cool to see Tatooine again. And the fact that, again, there's another kind of plug into the Star Wars universe to tell you that it's connected. But yeah, the characters, Amy Sedaris and Jake Cannavale as Toro. Just awful, awful, awful acting in this episode, and it really kind of took me out of the episode. But you know, it was about time that we had one bad episode. I'll also say this: people saying it's a filler episode, yeah, it is. It's a filler episode. I mean, it was ultimately an episode that was kind of just, well, we're saving something special for the next couple of weeks, knowing that there's, just a couple episodes left. So we're just going to give you this episode. Just kind of like, we need to give you something, but we don't want to give you the cake. We want to give you, just a little like of the frosting, just a little of the frosting. And I wish that they would have done more to kind of elevate the story and kind of progress forward. This kind of just felt like, what was the entire purpose? What was the entire point of this episode? To meet Ming Na Wan's character and to meet a bounty hunter that I could care less about. I guess. I mean, if that's what you're going for, then it succeeded. But you literally take this whole entire episode out so far of the season, nothing changes. And who knows, maybe, a couple episodes away, maybe as we get to next week's episode and in the last couple of episodes of the season, maybe those things kind of start coming into place from this episode. But I don't know. It just felt like this was an episode that was just unnecessary. And if Disney was like, hey, we want you to do 8 episodes, and they only had, plans for 7, and they kind of just threw this one in here, it's kind of a shame. I'd just give us 7 solid episodes as opposed to 7 solid episodes and 1 episode that is just kind of crap. But honestly, though, if this is the worst, I can't really complain that much. I mean, the show has been awesome. It's been my favorite. It's been my obsession over the past month. So I can't complain too much, but I just really hope that they kind of continue. They don't drop the ball any more than what they have, and that we continue to progress in the story and we get better acting here on out. And Dave Filoni, keep giving him opportunities. I'm not saying, Dave Filoni's the worst director ever. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve the opportunity with Lucasfilm to direct live action. All I'm saying, though, is have someone there on set who can help Dave Filoni craft better performances from the actors, because that's what the director's job is. He is there to direct the actors and direct their acting ability. And Dave Filoni right now is looking like an amateur in a lot of retrospect. I mean, Pedro Pascal is going to be great because he's Pedro freaking Pascal. But give him actors that are solid actors, obviously lesser names because, you only have so much money you can spend on this thing. But give him actors who are good in their craft. Don't give him Amy Sedaris. Don't give him Jake Cannavale. Don't give him people just because their parents are somebody's. Give him people that he can actually work with that will allow him to get the best out of those actors. So those are my only complaints about this episode. Honestly, though, it was pretty disappointing. It's an episode that I might actually skip in the future just because it's one of those episodes that I feel like is just filler and not necessary at all to where the story is and where the story is going. All right, guys, by the way, I want to apologize for drinking fluids while I'm doing this chat. I feel kind of a little lightheaded, so I think I'm a little dehydrated. That's also why I've been kind of, I don't know, I haven't been like as passionate or kind of out there and showy as I usually am when doing my Mandalorian episode reviews. I've just kind of had a pretty tiring week, but I'm making content for you guys because that is what's really, really important. I'm going to move over now to the live chat. It looks like we do have a comment from True Horror Fanatic Reviews, who is a great supporter of the channel. Not a fan of this episode. Not bad, but it just felt like a filler episode. Learned nothing new. I feel exactly the same way. Again, this is not bad television. This is not the worst episode of television I've ever seen this year or anything like that. I'm not saying the episode is bad. Out of what we've gotten, this is the most disappointing episode because of where my expectations are moving into this show. I mean, I came into this show with such high expectations because the trailers really got me. I love the idea. I love Star Wars. I love the fact that we're getting a new story. This is not a continued story. All these characters are new, which I love. And the first episode came out, and I thought, wow, that was really good. So my expectations for the second episode increased even higher. Second episode came out, solid. Not as good as the first episode, but still a really good episode of television. Moved the needle up a little bit more. Episode 3 came out, and I was like, wow, that is amazing. This is how you do TV. So it moved the needle up. So it continually, progressively moved the needle up as far as where the episodes have kind of gone. Episode 4 kind of moved it a little bit more down. I thought episode 4 was a good episode, but I had issues with the way that the episode felt out of place from the original kind of slate of episodes. This episode moved the needle down a lot more than the last episode, and it definitely felt like it was continuing the style, continuing the same look and feel of the first 3 episodes. But my issue is that, again, because this episode felt like filler and it felt unnecessary to the plot and to the story structure, it just didn't feel like to me that this episode really landed the mark, and it didn't move the needle. It really moved the needle down. It didn't move it up. And so I'm hoping that moving forward, we get something like the first few episodes of the season. And I wouldn't be so critical of this episode if it wasn't Star Wars. If this did not take place in the Star Wars universe, and I have such a love for this franchise, and it was something that, like, you know, is from a studio or a company that is lesser of, you know, has less credibility or less resource, I wouldn't be as critical. But the fact that this is coming from Lucasfilm, coming, you know, a Star Wars property set in the Star Wars universe, live action, the first 3 episodes have been freaking amazing. And then it just kind of feels like they've dropped the ball a little bit. Last week, they fumbled it around a little bit. This week, they threw an interception, and that interception went for a touchdown. It just really felt like this episode lacked a lot. And I wish that this episode got to an even higher and heightened level of satisfaction and of excitement. But it doesn't really move the needle for me to be excited about next week's episode any more than this week's episode, because I felt like this was a disappointing episode. Again, not a bad episode of television, just disappointing. And, you know, you got to have 1 or 2 here and there. I mean, the show can't be perfect. It's not going to be 8 for 8. Every single episode is just going to be an A+. We have to have realistic goals and realistic expectations, but I feel like Jon Favreau and the showrunners, they really need, well, Jon Favreau is the showrunner. Jon Favreau, the showrunner, needs to understand what the audience truly wants and how to tell a good story without compromising for filler episodes and for unnecessary storylines. It just, I wanted something a little bit more than what they gave us. But ultimately, guys, still loving this show. Still excited to get up every Friday. It's like Christmas to me. Every Friday I get to wake up and I'm like, oh, there's a new episode of The Mandalorian that just dropped. I cannot wait. And it's the first thing I do every single Friday morning. And there's only 3 episodes left of the season, guys. 3 episodes. Like, that is insane. It feels like it just started. It feels like I just watched the first episode yesterday, and now we're talking about only having 3 episodes left of season 1, which is it's sad. It's sad. But at least episode 9 is coming very soon, which I'm also very excited for. Yeah, I'm very pumped. This is the month of Star Wars fandom. All of us Star Wars fans, this is our month. This is our month to celebrate, to be joyous, to be happy, to enjoy movies and television. We got 3 episodes left of The Mandalorian. We got Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker. It's great. It's really great. I'm pumped. I'm really pumped, and it's my birthday. It's my birthday month as well. My birthday is December 23rd, so it's a great birthday present for me to have all of the Star Wars content being pumped out in my birthday month. It feels like I'm celebrating my birthday all month long. Anyway, guys, what did you think of this episode? Let me know down below in the comment section of this video. Make sure you guys drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. Again, I will be reviewing every single episode of The Mandalorian from this season to season 2 to, however long, any Star Wars show, any Star Wars thing that is coming out, I will be reviewing it. That being said, I will have a review of Empire Strikes Back up on my channel. I'm hoping tomorrow, that's kind of my timeline. I'm hoping that I can do an Empire Strikes Back review tomorrow. If not tomorrow, Monday for sure. But there's going to be a lot of stuff coming on my channel. I still have 4 Star Wars reviews I got to get done. I'm going to review the original Black Christmas, which is one of my all-time favorite horror films, coming into this Black Christmas movie, which comes out next week, which looks pretty awful and looks like it's going to be a huge disappointment like this episode of The Mandalorian. But probably less of a disappointment because, Black Christmas isn't like the greatest franchise ever or anything like that. But I will have Black Christmas. I can't even talk. I will have Black Christmas reviews up on the channel this week. I'll also be hopefully reviewing I Lost My Body. Two Popes is definitely one that you can definitely expect for this week. I think it drops on Netflix, I think on Friday, maybe earlier. I don't know. I have to look. And then I'll also have reviews of the some new releases coming next week. This week there was like nothing new coming out in theaters other than Marriage Story, which I reviewed already. But we have Black Christmas, Richard Jewell, and Jumanji: The Next Level, which I will be reviewing all 3 of those movies, and I'll also be reviewing. Why am I blanking? Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. I don't know why I blanked on that. There's so much content coming to the channel, guys. December is going to be the craziest month of the year for me because I have Star Wars content. Oscar season is here, which I want to review all the Oscar movies. I'm gonna have to start hammering out my list, my year-end list for best of the year, worst of the year, most disappointing film of the year. Maybe talking some Watchmen, doing the entire season 1 review of Watchmen. Oh gosh, there's so much that I have to do, and it's kind of overwhelming, but it's going to be awesome. I'm excited, and I also want to review one Christmas movie this year, and that Christmas movie is going to be Klaus from Netflix. I've not seen the movie yet, but it's one thing that I want to do. I'm not going to do the same thing I did for Halloween where I burned myself completely in October, but I will be reviewing at least one Christmas movie during the Christmas season, and that movie will be Klaus, and that review probably won't be up until maybe Christmas Day, maybe Christmas Eve. It'll be sometime within that time frame of the Christmas week. I'm also going to California for a week, so I have to figure out like how I'm going to do my reviews, and there's just a lot of stuff that I'm going to be doing over this month. So definitely subscribe to the channel. And 2020 is going to be the biggest year of this channel. I promise there's going to be big changes coming to this channel. Number 1, my name, The Film Fan, that's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. Starting January 1st, I will be changing my name to something different. You'll have to stay tuned and watch. It's not really going to be surprising. It's maybe going to be boring to some people, but I am pretty excited about changing over the name of my channel because I'm kind of tired of calling myself The Film Fan. It's just so generic and kind of boring. And yeah, I'm ready for a change of scenery, a change of a change in terms of where I want my content to go and where I want this channel to go. It's still gonna a lot of stuff on the channel is gonna stay the same. I'm still gonna do movie reviews and stuff. That's never gonna change, but you'll see. I don't want to get into specifics now, but this channel will change heavily next year. I'm going to be putting a lot more time into this channel next year, so it's going to be awesome. So definitely join the family. Hit that subscribe button and become a part of this channel. We have some amazing people on here, from True Horror Fanatic Reviews to Numanoid the Gamer to everyone who makes this a great opportunity for me to share my voice and my opinion on what I love. Anyway, guys, I've rambled on long enough. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching The Mandalorian. And as always, may the Force be with you.